the background. That's because they have something in Florida that we do not have in California: rain. And they get a lot of it. One of the reasons perhaps people are moving to Florida from California. Talking about moving, here's a headline for you. Iconic Target store on Mission Street to close amid shoplifting tidal wave. San Francisco Police Department tells Globe Mayor Breed, that is the Globe, the California Globe, that Mayor Breed falsely claims it's not about theft and begs company to stay. Last week, after Walgreens announced that 5 additional outlets in San Francisco would be closing on top of the 17 that already have been shuttered since 2019, the company claimed that changes in both the law and prosecutor attitudes had made it impossible to run a profitable business in the city. But after all, the word profit is a dirty word to the left, so what do they care? Mayor London Breed challenged that narrative. She attributed the closings to demographic shifts. Really? Demographic shifts. And the Chronicle dutifully reported that the 5 stores slated to close had fewer than 2 recorded shoplifting incidents a month on average since 2018. While acknowledging that few stores bother to report a crime that now routinely goes unpunished. Everyone who has stood in line at a drugstore and watched thieves shove hundreds of dollars of items down their pants knew that Breed would mistaken at best or lying at worst. Now in a Globe exclusive, San Francisco Police Department has revealed that the iconic Target on Mission Street between 3rd and 4th Streets will be shutting its doors before the end of the year. This store loses $25,000 a day to shoplifting, a San Francisco Police Department officer told the Globe in lengthy taped interviews conducted this week. That's $25,000 that walks out the door on average between 9 and 6 every day. There you go. The amazing thing is, and this is, I think amazing is the appropriate term, the amazing thing is that people in San Francisco vote Democrat as they destroy their own city. If the word amazing is not appropriate, then you provide the adjective. People vote to destroy their place of life, where they live. When you vote Democrat, you vote to destroy your city. That is not an exaggeration. That is not hyperbole. You vote to destroy Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago. You vote to destroy the quality of life in your city. So why do people vote Democrat? You may have an answer, and I'd be very curious to hear your answer, especially if you do vote Democrat, or if you know somebody in your family or among friends that votes Democrat in a big city. What is their reasoning? What is the thinking? It shows you that reason is rare. The rational in the human species is rare. It is a completely irrational act to vote Democrat in any large city. It's completely irrational. It is destructive. So why do people do it? Well, in part, they have been literally brainwashed into believing that Republicans are the bad guys. There's no, well, there are other explanations, but that's certainly one of them. To vote Republican is to vote for the bad guy. The fact that the bad guys profit from the Democrats seems to be irrelevant. People voted in Los Angeles for this monster named Gascon, this staggering, destructive fool, as district attorney. They voted, the voters of California voted a number of years ago, they voted to make any theft under $900 a misdemeanor, which essentially means it's not prosecuted. When I was in high school, I realized I was not a leftist, and I know exactly why. I realized because I hated evil, and the left doesn't hate evil. And that was it. They don't hate evil. They hate Republicans, they hate Christians, but they don't hate evil. I don't understand what it is in the human condition that does not hate evil. It is my favorite verse in the Bible. Those of you who love God must hate evil. If you don't hate evil, you don't love God. And I find that to be utterly appropriate. These are the riddles of life. These are truly the riddles of life. To vote that if you steal, it's okay. Stealing is okay. I brought to your attention National Public Radio. Remember, they had a woman on in defense of shoplifting. I think that was the name of her book. They had the woman on, I believe, for an hour. Didn't ask a challenging question. It's okay. It's okay to steal. Well, at least you now understand why I believe that the Ten Commandments is the answer to humanity's problems. If people lived by the Ten Commandments, the world would be a beautiful place. The left mocks the Ten Commandments. If you don't believe me, look at the reactions to my videos at PragerU on the Ten Commandments and see how much leftists mock the Ten Commandments. Mock it. And what a fool I must be to advocate that people actually live by it. It's a puzzle. I have to admit, it is a puzzle. People who steal are engaged in one of the great acts of evil, and that is not how any leftist views it. Any. The moment you acknowledge that stealing is evil, you have left the left. It's great. That's what we want, is people to leave the left. See Dave Rubin's video, Why I Left the Left. He was a big man on the left, but he actually thinks morally. And the moment you think morally, you leave the left. They have pictures here of these empty shelves in these stores. It boggles the mind that this is okay with people who vote Democrat. So that's the story out of San Francisco. A lot more stories to report to you. But I am curious if you have a thought on why people in big cities vote Democrat. In light of the fact that the Democrats destroy all big cities, tell me what it is. It's so profoundly irrational that it does need an explanation. Truly does. Let's see, what is the latest here on masking kids? Vaccinated children likely still have to wear masks in school, Surgeon General says. Indoor mask mandates at schools will likely stay in place even after young children receive COVID-19 vaccines. You're going to give your child a COVID-19 vaccine? There's another question for you. You're going to give your child a COVID-19 vaccine? 1-8-PRAGER-776.
With Sebastian Gorka.
He is America. Captain America's trying, but nah, not so much. It's Superman. That's why kids have loved him. Adults have loved. When I saw Superman, I was, 8 years old, and I saw Christopher Reeve. You believed a man could fly. And I wanted to be an American. And now I am. But they've killed it. They killed James Bond in the new movie. Sorry, guys, spoilers. I've seen it. It's crap. Don't waste your time. They killed James Bond. Dead. Gone. Because I guess what? He was too sexy? Too toxic in his masculinity? Gone!
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
They lied and said I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication.
Did you see how uncomfortable he was? See, leftists aren't used to pushback, and that's exactly what Joe Rogan gave them, pushback. They're used to existing in these bubbles. They all think alike. They all talk alike. I'm not even sure that they all believe the same thing, but they're so cowardly that they just live to impress each other.
Dude.
Within these bubbles.
Dude.
Yeah, so let me tell you something. This guy, Sanjay Gupta, I've watched him a couple of times on CNN. I've watched some clips, and I tried to, just try to stomach through it, honestly. I don't have a lot of respect for Sanjay Gupta because I believe that he deceives a lot of people as well. I believe CNN does that. And first off, the drug ivermectin, we know that it's a human drug. He knows that it's a human drug.
Dude.
And Joe Rogan, my goodness, called him out on it.
Dude.
And it's a good thing. And by the way, let me correct the record. The medicine for animals is called neuromectin, not ivermectin. So not only is CNN lying about it, they don't even have the decency to look up the correct drug for you. This is why we cannot trust the mainstream media. They just lie.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. There's no doubt about it. America is in the middle of a culture war. The battle between left and right is real. One side believes in American greatness. The other wants to tear it down. The Salem Radio Network and the Salem Podcast Network is looking for a few warriors who are already fighting this war. This is your chance to nominate a person worthy of the honor of being Salem's Culture Warrior of 2021. Go to this show's website and click on the banner. Help us select Salem's Culture Warrior of the Year.
Hey, everybody, I'm Dennis Prager. Good to be with you, even if the subjects are depressing. I acknowledge it. It's an interesting question I've posed here, given that they're shutting down these Walgreens and Targets in San Francisco, and it's due to theft. Theft is due to the fact that the Democrats are okay with theft. I hereby announce I risk my reputation as a thinker, as a broadcaster, as a decent human, when I state to you theft is okay with the Democratic Party. Okay? So let's be clear. Clarity is the essence of truth. The Democratic Party in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia is okay with stealing. Is that clear? If it isn't clear, you're lying to yourself, and I can't help that. But I'm not lying to myself. That is how low we have gotten in the moral sphere in this country. One of the two major parties is okay with stealing. Indeed, it makes it possible. Lowlifes like George Soros fund people who are okay with stealing. That George Soros has the respect of Democrats tells you only one thing, and that is the low level of morality in the Democratic Party. The man is loathsome, truly loathsome. He funds people who do not prosecute theft. But they laugh. They laugh at us religious folks who actually believe that do not steal comes from God. Oh, how silly dilly. You silly religious people believe that God is against theft. Makes us Democrats laugh. You make us laugh, you religious people. We are the sophisticates. Walgreens is closing 22 locations. KPIX Channel 5 reached back to Walgreens for clarification, and Walgreens clearly stated the closure of all 22 store locations is directly due to an increase in retail theft. Yes. And if this joker of a mayor ran again, she would probably win. That's right. Part of the reason I've asked the question, why do people in big cities vote Democrat when the Democrats ruin their city? Part of it is that it is the rich liberal who votes Democrat. They're not affected. That's a factor, I believe, in the voting. But what about the people, the poor folks who are affected? How do you explain their vote? That's the question here. Let me see what you folks have to say. It'd be very, very interesting. David in Los Angeles, hello.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Hi.
Hi, okay, so really quick, I have experience talking to a wide demographic of people here in LA. I've been a bartender here for about 17 years. Basically, what I think it boils down to is a lot of confusion and a lot of still towing old party lines that don't exist anymore. I used to have a landlord, and when I informed her one day that she's not a JFK-era Democrat anymore because she's actually today's libertarian, she didn't want to hear it. I mean, she was a hippie from the 60s living in Topanga Canyon, and she marched against big government, big control. And I said, you know, you're today's libertarian, right? And she didn't want to hear it. She still thought that today's Democratic Party is the old classic JFK-era Democratic Party.
That's a good answer. That is one answer. I have long believed that. I remember speaking, let's see, who was I campaigning for? Was it Romney? So I was actually, ironically, because I'm in Florida now, I was in Florida and I was speaking at a bunch of synagogues. I remember opening my comments by looking at those in attendance and saying, I have some very serious news to report to you, and that is Franklin Roosevelt is dead. So there is that analogous explanation. Democrats live in a make-believe world of nice guys doing good for the country, Truman and Roosevelt and the like, and JFK, and they have not acknowledged reality ever since. Let's see what else you folks have to say. Kerry, also Los Angeles. Hello.
Hi there. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
So, good morning. So I have actually I've been doing hair in Los Angeles for 27 years. I am one of the few conservative hairstylists. It's kind of a joke. All of my clients are rich liberals, and of course, I've watched them along with I've raised my children. I have conservative children. We believe in God, and the majority of my clients, like you were saying, there's a lot of mocking of God. In fact, I'm not even sure that they truly, even the ones that wear crosses, even believe in God. I think it's more of symbolism, of looking at goodness. But then when you actually speak about God, they cringe. They literally cringe as if you put holy water on them.
Well, Kerry, I have often noted that of all the PragerU videos, and there are 500 of them, the 5-minute videos, they're all, or nearly all, are attacked by people on the left. But nothing gets as much mockery as any video that makes the case for God or religion.
Right, and I've watched it. I wear a cross. That my clients know I'm conservative. They want a good haircut, and they know that I'm holding scissors, so they keep quiet.
That's funny. That is funny.
But yes, but truth. But it goes all the way back to them raising their children. So these are generation after generation.
That's right. You got it right. I hope we meet one day. Send me an email. Back in a moment.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking, God.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert
from the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
in spite of all the years of conflict. There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. I really posed a big question. Why do people in big cities vote Democrat when they ruin their cities? I'm going to return to that. In the meantime, we have a big issue in this country with regard to liberty, as you well know, freedom. And that's why I have the senior counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, Jake Warner, on the line for the latest case that they are involved in defending freedom in this country. Jake Warner, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
Thanks for having me.
Where are you located?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, yeah, that's where ADF is, correct?
Yeah, we have offices around the country, but one of them is here in Scottsdale.
Oh, one of them. Oh, not the headquarters? For whatever reason, I thought the headquarters. And anyway, in any event, it's fine. Good to be with you. There is another case in Colorado, and it raises an interesting question. Are Colorado courts particularly goofy, or is it just a coincidence?
Well, a few months ago, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Colorado officials could force a website designer to create custom websites celebrating a view of marriage that goes against her biblical beliefs. Lori Smith is a website designer, and she wants to create websites celebrating the biblical view of marriage, that it is between one man and one woman. But if she does so, Colorado would punish her if she declined to create websites celebrating a different view of marriage. And so, unlike, she looked around, she saw what the state was doing to Jack Phillips, and she didn't want to be punished before she found out her constitutional rights. So she sued, and 3 months ago, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals said she could be punished for exercising her First Amendment right not to express a message that goes against her core beliefs.
I'm quiet because I'm actually assimilating what you're saying. So, according to the courts in Colorado, a person has to actively celebrate, for example, same-sex marriage if they believe, even if they believe that religion demands that marriage be between a man and a woman. Do I have that correctly?
That's what the 10th Circuit recently held, that if Lori Smith creates custom websites celebrating biblical marriage, the state would force her to also create custom websites celebrating different views of marriage, including same-sex marriage.
And what is their argument? That the religious argument is invalid? What is their argument?
Well, they would say that Lori is discriminating, but the reality is that Lori serves everyone. She just can't express every message. And the First Amendment protects those kinds of expressive choices. And courts around the country have recognized this principle. For example, ADF has represented filmmakers in Minnesota and a painter and calligrapher in Arizona. And when those cases went on appeal, the courts recognized that the First Amendment forbids government officials from forcing people to express messages that go against their core beliefs. And this is something that is important for every American. We don't think the government should force, for example, people who identify as LGBT to create expression that goes against their views of marriage. It's just not the government's role to force people to create speech that go against their faith or other deeply held beliefs.
So where does this case stand now?
We've asked the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in on this critical issue. And right now that is being litigated right now. We hope to hear from the court later this fall, perhaps early next year, to see whether it's going to take the case.
Now, I read in your article on it at the ADF site that there is a gag order. Did I read that correctly?
There's a publication ban featured in Colorado's law. So as a feature of Colorado law, Lori can't publish on her website her views about marriage because the state would think that could make some people feel unwelcome to her services. So we've also challenged this aspect of the law that restricts Lori's speech.
Well, that one troubles me even more, if that's possible. Since when does a court have the right to say to an American, you can't speak?
Yeah, it's a very disturbing feature of the law. You know, that no law should punish someone for expressing their views, especially on life's most critical issues like marriage and gender and other things like that. But that's exactly what this law does, simply because Lori is a business owner in Colorado. And just because Lori's a business owner doesn't mean that the First Amendment doesn't protect her right to free speech.
Yeah, you would think so. All right, folks, during the break right now, please go to my website and click on the banner for ADF. All of their work is done free, so we are the ones who raise the funds for them. The ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom banner at my website. And now, a reminder with regard to Sean, Relief Factor. That is correct. One of the greatest products I have ever endorsed. If you have any form of muscle or joint pain, this thing will work in 3 weeks, or it probably won't work. So try it for 3 weeks for $19.95. And I use it virtually every day. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384, $19.95 for a 3-week trial.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
You know, Seb, the one thing that was fascinating that I always tell people is that for the last 3 years of the Bush administration, I was the assistant U.S. trade rep for the Bush administration for public affairs, meaning I was just the spokesperson. And forever we would hear why we couldn't do things. We couldn't renegotiate NAFTA because, well, it was signed and sealed and we couldn't do that. And I get it, but that was the mentality. Yes. And frankly, that's the mentality that permeates government. And I get it. And so I was always like, okay, I get it. This is stupid, but we do have a signed deal. And you got a guy like Trump that comes in and you tell him, well, you know, there's this signed deal. And he says, so what?
It was one of the most refreshing things about it.
And it was just the thing that was so weird is if you think about it, why aren't more? Because I don't think you should tear up everything for the sake of it.
No, but just ask the questions.
Right, ask the questions.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
So Joe Biden thinks that an illegal chasing a U.S. senator into a ladies' room is part of the process and happens to everybody. Wow. I'm guessing nobody's able to chase Joe Biden into the men's room. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's not part of any process he has to face. It's unbelievable the way the machine, the beast, looks the other way when something as reprehensible as illegals harassing United States senators gets a pass. I saw a great tweet, David Harsanyi, who we've interviewed on this show before. Our country is so free that illegal immigrants can yell at senators in public without worrying about any repercussions. That's how free we are as a country. To all the lunatics on the left who tell you how oppressive we are as a nation, how racist this country is, how miserable the United States of America is, we're so free that we let illegals harass, maybe criminally, U.S. senators, and we don't do anything about it. Tell me why these illegals harassing senators shouldn't be deported.
Okay, everybody, Dennis Prager here. Another case of liberty, individual liberty, religious liberty in Colorado. A case of a woman who, tell me, what is her profession exactly? Jake Warner, senior counsel for ADF. What is her profession?
Sure. Lori Smith owns 303 Creative, and she is a website designer. So she creates custom websites that express messages for people.
So she was asked, if I understand this correctly, to make a website celebrating same-sex marriage, and she, as a believer in the biblical view of marriage, does not support that, and so she has been fined?
Well, not yet, thankfully. Lori is one of those who saw what her state was doing to Jack Phillips, punishing him for declining to create cakes that express messages that go against his faith, and she wondered, hey, I wonder how this law applies to me. So instead of waiting for the government to come punish her, she decided to proactively find out her constitutional rights before that happened. So she sued the state to see if the First Amendment would protect her expressive choices in her website design company.
And that did not work.
So far, it has not. The 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the Colorado state government could force her to create websites with messages that go against her deeply held religious beliefs. And we believe that's wrong, and that's why we've asked the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in on that.
Out of curiosity, and this is truly out of curiosity, could she be compelled by a couple, or actually a threesome, that was practicing polygamy? Would she be compelled to make a website for them?
It's possible. We haven't seen the state enforce the law in that way before, but that would be consistent with how the state has applied the law in the past. So because that's a view of marriage, that the state could compel someone to create websites celebrating that view of marriage if they create websites celebrating a biblical view of marriage.
Unbelievable. Finally, I want to get clear on the gag part, because that troubles me the most. First of all, maybe you can explain this to me. I hear all the time judges imposing gag orders on defendants. Since when does a court have the right to say to an American, you cannot speak?
Yeah, and that's a totally different situation. Typically in the courtroom, you have the court trying to preserve someone's right to a fair hearing or a fair trial. But the court doesn't have the power to force ordinary Americans to express messages that go against their deeply held beliefs. And that's exactly what Colorado officials are trying to do in Colorado. We've seen it in the case of Jack Phillips, and we've seen it in the case of Lori Smith. In fact, many of your viewers around the country might live in jurisdictions where officials could use similar laws to compel them to speak or to punish their desired speech simply because the government doesn't agree with their faith. And that's why ADF exists. We are the world's largest legal organization dedicated to protecting religious freedom, free speech, the sanctity of life, parental rights, and marriage and family. And by God's grace, we've had great success. Over the past 10 years, we've won 12 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And these cases can cost a lot of money, sometimes up to hundreds of thousands of dollars if they go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But we can't do that work unless we have the support from your viewers or people like your viewers.
That is entirely accurate, and that's why, folks, you know my theory. Good people are divided into three groups: those who fight, those who help the fighters, and those who do nothing. And helping fighters is as good as fighting. So go to the ADF banner at DennisPrager.com and please contribute. By the way, when you contribute, you feel actually quite good. It's getting to do so that is the effort. Thank you, Jake Warner. Thank you, Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you, my listeners. Generally speaking, my listeners contribute the most to these great causes. Okay, I asked a question earlier in the show. I began the show with, why do people in big cities vote Democrat? Based on the latest out of San Francisco with the Walgreens and other stores shutting down en masse because of all the theft. The theft is a direct result of Democratic Party principles and a direct result of people in California voting that it's okay to steal. That's what they voted. Yep. For those of you who think that religion is unnecessary, I present to you the California voter, that if you steal under $900 worth, it's only a misdemeanor. Basically, you get away with it. So every day there are people who are stealing $900 worth of items in San Francisco and other places in California, thanks to the secular California voter. For those of you who still live in the make-believe world, including many Republicans, who think that secularism isn't a disaster, a moral disaster, I present to you California. Okay? People who laugh at the idea that the Ten Commandments is still necessary. God, the ability of people to fool themselves because they have an emotional investment in this case, secularism. The consequences of secularism are what keep me religious. I've noted that all of my life. It started out with a column I wrote a quarter of a century ago, How I Found God at Columbia. You know why why universities are such moral wastelands? Because they're the most secular institutions in society. That's right. That's the reason. There's no better reason. Why people vote to ruin their own cities. It's a phenomenon. Back in a moment.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Americans still have enough fighting spirit. We're not Canada, we're not Sweden, we're not Germany. And
I would say that even under lawful elections where it was close but you lost, the incoming administration would say, you know, we don't really have a mandate. Normally people would say, I've got to deal with this closely divided group. I can't do great, big, dramatic things. This group has come in and said, we are going to go as hard to the left, as hard to progressivism, as hard to socialism, as hard to communism as we can, as fast as we can. We're going to go as hard to the godless view of everything as fast as we can. We are going to empower our enemies and insult our friends. We are going to undo everything the previous administration did, not because it's necessarily good for the country, but simply for the fact that the previous administration did it. And where that really came back to bite us in the backside, and I think that where you really start to see the let's go Brandon phenomenon is following Afghanistan. Because when the previous administration had left an exit plan saying, if you follow these guidelines, make it conditions-based, we can get everybody out safely, we can get all of our allies out before we take the military out, we can get rid of our equipment, we can do all this stuff. And because Joe Biden said, I'm not doing any of it, and the only reason he said it was because the previous guy did it, and we got 13 Marines killed, and we lost a lot of Americans in the process that are still behind enemy lines even to this day. That's when America woke up and said, wait a minute, this isn't right. And you're starting to see, I think, a groundswell that is going to roll all the way through the 2022 election cycle.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, booyah!
Beat a little bit. Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
There's no doubt about it. America is in the middle of a culture war. The battle between left and right is real. One side believes in American greatness. The other wants to tear it down. The Salem Radio Network and the Salem Podcast Network is looking for a few warriors who are already fighting this war. This is your chance to nominate a person worthy of the honor of being Salem's Culture Warrior of 2021. Go to this show's website and click on the banner. Help us select Salem's Culture Warrior of the Year.
Hi, everybody. It's an amazing question that I have posed here at this opening hour of the show. Why do people vote to ruin their cities when they vote Democrat? They do that. The report from San Francisco is astonishing, and people will still vote Democrat. It's almost unbelievable how the stores are closing en masse in San Francisco. And let's see, Target now, yeah, that's the one. Target, iconic Target store on Mission Street to close amid shoplifting tidal wave. And people will still vote Democrat. People will still vote for people like Gascon and other district attorneys who believe that you don't prosecute somebody if they stole $900 worth. Wow. Yep. How to ruin your own life, your own city. Kevin in San Francisco says Republicans don't even put their name out, so he is stuck to vote for some communist or hippie. It's an interesting question. I'd like to pursue that. If that's the case, Republicans not even putting out a nominee. Martha in Los Angeles, her best friend did not know what woke meant. It's an interesting point. They don't know. They watch NPR and PBS. It's a very good point, Martha. They don't know. They self-imposed ignorance. Tom in St. John's, Indiana, there's no choice for people in Chicago, no Republicans to vote for. Would it make any difference is the question. I don't know the answer to that question, but that is obviously a question to be asked. Daryl in Anaheim, California, people vote Democrat because they are brainwashed. Democrats will give them what they want. That's a good point. In other words, better to have stores shut down if I am given more benefits. I think there's truth to that. It's the antithesis of what this country has stood for. That's why we have to fight, everybody. I fight every day. So should you. It's a big deal. Anyway, go now to my website, DennisPrager.com. Click on the ADF banner.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
He is America. Captain America's trying, but nah, not so much. It's Superman. That's why kids have loved him. Adults have loved. When I saw Superman, I was, 8 years old, and I saw Christopher Reeve. You believed a man could fly. And I wanted to be an American, and now I am. But they've killed it. They killed James Bond in the new movie. Sorry, guys, spoilers. I've seen it. It's crap. Don't waste your time. They killed James Bond. Dead. Gone. Because I guess what? He was too sexy? Too toxic in his masculinity? Gone!
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
They lied and said I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking it, the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication.
Did you see how uncomfortable he was? See, leftists aren't used to pushback, and that's exactly what Joe Rogan gave them, pushback. They're used to existing in these bubbles. They all think alike. They all talk alike. I'm not even sure that they all believe the same thing, but they're so cowardly that they just live to impress each other.
Dude.
Within these bubbles.
Dude.
Yeah, so let me tell you something. This guy, Sanjay Gupta, I've watched him a couple of times on CNN. I've watched some clips, and I tried to, just try to stomach through it, honestly. I don't have a lot of respect for Sanjay Gupta because I believe that he deceives a lot of people as well. I believe CNN does that. And first off, the drug ivermectin, we know that it's a human drug. He knows that it's a human drug.
Dude.
And Joe Rogan, my goodness, called him out on it.
Dude.
And it's a good thing. And by the way, let me correct the record. The medicine for animals is called neuromectin, not ivermectin. So not only is CNN lying about it, they don't even have the decency to look up the correct drug for you. This is why we cannot trust the mainstream media. They just lie.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Religion. It's not just about saying I have a right in this country to not have the government not allow me to go to church, but also that the government cannot compel me to participate in any sort of event, including a vaccine, by the way, that goes against my sincerely held religious beliefs. And so it should just be a matter of course that if you have a conscious objection, then you can say, I, as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Jew, as any sort of religion, I mean, this covers all religions, by the way, all faiths, all sincerely held beliefs, you should be able to say, I decline to be coerced into participation. But what we're seeing is that a lot of employers are not only requiring a lot of information for people to say, well, you have to justify your religious exemption. We're also seeing that they want this so-called, what they're calling an interactive process. That's basically an interrogation. I have clients right now that they have filed for a religious exemption on the basis of we're pro-life, that's what the Bible teaches, and I cannot take this vaccine. And the Human Resources Department, from the legal counsel of these employers, want to sit down and basically interrogate them and say, is this really a sincerely held religious belief? And they're using this as a pretext to try to deny religious exemptions. It's absurd, and I hope that when there are more lawsuits filed, like just today, in Texas, United Airlines was forbidden from enforcing their vaccine mandate against employees who are claiming a religious exemption. So we're already seeing that the courts are protecting this, but hopefully it'll be more than just Texas.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
So who wins when there is a clash on the left between separate preferred activist groups? Who gets preference? Who wins? Now, on the left, they have a hierarchy. Not any different than a hierarchy that you would have in any sort of organization. You see, when the left has a moment of disagreement or conflict, it is very important to realize that there is a structure of what matters more than something else.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First.
It's the happy hour. Hey, everybody. Second hour every Friday is the happiness hour. Sometimes it's tougher than others. And I will admit that we are at such a time. Yes, indeed. It's a tough time in America. That's why we need the happiness hour. That's right. It's a challenge, and I fully acknowledge it. When I think of America, of the recent past, let alone the more distant past, like when I grew up in it, and I think of America today, it's sad. There's no question about it. They changed Superman from, what is it? Let's see. What's Superman's motto, Sean? Yeah, truth, justice, and the American way. Right, truth, justice, and the American way. That was the Superman I grew up with, and now it's truth, justice, and a better way. He's no longer American Superman, and he is really the colorist of the comics quit. Well, it's another example. Another example of something beautiful being destroyed. Superman, guy fought evil because he was an American, and Americans fight evil. I mean, there's just everything, almost everything has been changed. This free, wonderful, happy country, was it happy for everybody? Isn't that a stupid question? The very question shows the immaturity of the questioner. Of course it wasn't happy for everybody. What point does that make? It doesn't make any point. There are people who had it difficult in this country. That is exactly correct. Nevertheless, the bulk of Americans benefited from the freest society ever created. So it is a tough time. The happiness today is a tough time. The hatred of Americans for one another, left and right basically hate each other. And there's no way around that fact. They have nothing in common, nothing whatsoever. And it began with the hatred of the conservative, and then finally, I guess it was reciprocated as the conservative watches the country decimated. So happiness is a challenge today, not to mention COVID. And people locked down in their homes for much of a year and a half. Kids not being allowed into school or having to wear masks the entire time, not being able to play with other kids. I mean, this has been a tough time. So I feel a particular urgency to have the happiness hour every week. Look, if we can't grapple with the problem of happiness in difficult times, then what is the good of a happiness hour? What is the good of the entire notion of happiness? It's obviously it's a challenge. There's no question about it. It is a challenge. So that's the question on the table today. How have you grappled with it? What would you like to raise? I'm going to do an open lines today on the happiness issue. What have you done with regard to happiness? Has it affected you? My general attitude in this period has been that the most important thing is to have kindred spirits in your life. That is the key to having some degree of happiness at this time, is to have the joy of people who share your values, share your passions, and that's a very big deal. I mean, if you read, I don't want to depress you, but if you read the suicide numbers in the United States and Britain and so on. I mean, we're talking about some very serious problems in our time, and a lot of it is self-induced. What was done here? Look at this, just this headline in this past week. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill cancels classes Tuesday amid 2 suicide investigations. We are in the middle of a mental health crisis, both on our campus and across the nation, the school's chancellor said. The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill has canceled classes Tuesday and given students a wellness day while campus authorities investigate 2 possible suicides over the weekend. The decision came after a student was found dead in a residence hall Saturday morning, and police received a call for an attempted suicide early Sunday. We are in the middle of a mental health crisis both on our campus and across the nation, and we are aware that college-age students carry an increased risk of suicide. Chancellor Kevin Guskiewicz wrote to students in a letter Sunday evening. The school is encouraging students to use Tuesday to check in with each other and rest. The university also said it is setting up a special support network this week to help students connect to resources and process what has been happening. The letter from the chancellor, which was sent on World Mental Health Day, announced the launch of a Heals Care Network, a campus-wide campaign to promote and support mental health awareness. We have almost a second pandemic on our hands with mental health and suicide. Claire Landis, who works for the student-led mental health resource Peer-to-Peer, said, I don't think that the issue is simply one of mental health. What we have is a crisis of meaning, of everything beautiful being destroyed. And that's what I think the crisis is with young people. When you think about what, as I have so often pointed out, their past is depicted as awful and their future is depicted as awful. Right? Your past is one of unvarnished racism, right? That's what your past is. Your founders are not heroes. Your founders are villains. Your country's past is vile. Your future is death, right? Existential threat to life. This is what young people are being told. Young people cannot play with other kids because of the nonsense of their having to be masked and stay home. Kids in Sweden didn't stay home. They didn't stay home one day. Under 16 years of age, the entire 2020, the worst year of COVID, kids went to school in Sweden. So my question to you is, how has this year and a half affected you? Do you have advice to people with regard to happiness? I do. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243-7776. Happiness Hour on the Dennis Prager Show.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
when there is a clash on the left between separate preferred activist groups? Who gets preference? Who wins? Now, on the left, they have a hierarchy. Not any different than a hierarchy that you'd have in any sort of organization. You see, when the left has a moment of disagreement or conflict, it is very important to realize that there is a structure of what matters more than something else. I wrote a piece for humanevents.com where I wrote, it was literally called, "This Matters More Than That." Now, a great example of this is when Fauci, the lockdown artist, the anti-freedom activist, mad scientist, who is the best example of the technological and scientific elite that the left worships. When he was even confronted by a talk show host where they asked Fauci, they said, "So do you think that young people should stop hooking up via Tinder and basically having very promiscuous relationships?" And Fauci said, "Well, you have to understand there's some risk to that." He didn't denounce it because he understood that if he came out against promiscuous behavior for young people, there'd be a revolution.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Larry Sabato from the Virginia Center of Politics, and he said, for all the talk about the 2022 midterms, really what we need to be focused on is a 2021 midterm. That occurs November 2nd in Virginia.
Now, what occurs to me that is a great tell is President Biden is not coming to help out Terry McAuliffe. They're bringing in former President Obama to try and generate some enthusiasm without setting you up one way or the other. How do you cover critical race theory? Because it's become the central issue in Virginia. What do you say about it?
Well, critical race theory has become the proxy for the school district fight in Virginia and who should control what children are taught. And you have some of the largest and most liberal school districts in the country in Virginia. You also have some of the more conservative school districts in Virginia. And what I thought was key, and obviously you've played this soundbite a lot, is the Yunkan-McAuliffe debate, which goes to show you why real debates and real news, especially in politics, are important and actually sometimes elicit the most interesting things, where Terry McAuliffe essentially said that parents should not have a say in what their children are taught, whether it relates to critical race theory, whether it relates to gender studies, whether it relates to transsexual issues, whatever it is. Terry McAuliffe thinks the school boards and the teachers unions know better. That's a perfectly legitimate political argument. What was interesting was he actually said the quiet part out loud. He said the thing that Democrats rarely, if ever, admit, which is they don't want parents' input if it disagrees with their worldview, and the parents shouldn't really have a say. Once he said that, and I think you would acknowledge, that's really when the race changed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Okay, all Dennis Prager indeed here. Thank you for being with me. This is the Happiness Hour. That's right. When you worry, you make it double. I couldn't agree more on that one. By the way, a reminder, my friends, that Sierra Pacific Mortgage has Andrew and Todd This is a great time for you to take out a loan with the rates what they are. These two guys I trust. They have been with me from the beginning of the lockdown. I remember thinking, who are these guys? They're working right now. Nobody's working. And they were. AndrewandTodd.com at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. And I strongly recommend them to you. You can call, no obligation, 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172. Andrew and Todd at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. Help you get back to financial security. AndrewandTodd.com. I'm Dennis Prager. And it's the happiness hour, and it has been a difficult time. So I'm opening the lines to your thoughts on how you've addressed this uniquely difficult time in modern American history. It's what it's been. It's true. Okay, where's, let's see. Oh, there's a good one. Natalie, Irvine, California. Hello.
Hi, Dennis. Good morning.
Hi there.
Along the lines of what you said, I am the happiest I've ever been since I've pulled my kids out of public school and I'm homeschooling them. It's very rewarding. And I work with Andrew and Todd, just so you know. I work from home. They're the most amazing company. Everything you say about them is 110% true. They're incredible. So thank you for referring me to them.
Well, thank you for noting that. It's important. Thank you for noting it. Good. Go on.
Yes. So on the flip side of the token, my sister, and we both met you at Basilicos. My sister, she is still not homeschooling. Her children are in school. She has a 16-year-old in high school in Beverly Hills, California. She has a 13-year-old in middle school. They are harassing and hurting these children every day, pulling them out of class, coercing them into taking COVID tests, these healthy children. And if they refuse, which they do because there's been no consent from their mother, they will make them go into a quarantine. They're in quarantine. My niece has been crying every day, wanting to go back to school. They're embarrassing her in front of all of her friends because she refuses to take a test. Same thing with the 16-year-old. He's depressed now. He doesn't want to get out of bed. My 13-year-old niece cries every day. She thinks there's something wrong with her because the school, the teachers, and administration are continuously telling her that she is not worthy of being in class because she's not taking a COVID test. A young, healthy, athletic girl. It's disgusting what they're doing. And you are absolutely right. Unless we pull our kids out of school, unless we start taking control over our children's future, yes, they will become depressed, and it will become a pandemic of a very scary childhood, depression and a sickness that will overcome all of these children. So parents need to pull their kids out. It's horrible.
So I'm good. So let me ask you, what does your sister say to you with your happy situation, your happy family situation?
She says, "You're so lucky. I don't know how you do it. I have 3 kids. I don't think I could do it. But you're so lucky because I live in a conservative area. I'm in Orange County. She's in Los Angeles. So it's much more difficult for her to find the groups that I found here. I told her she needs to pick herself up and you need to move to a conservative area. It is what it is. Do it." And I push her. But she says that she feels weak because the administration and the teachers are bullying her and telling her that she's not allowed to do any Zoom. They're not allowed to do any sort of distance learning. They just have to stay quarantined for 10 days. And then when they come back, they have to test again, treating them like they're sick, like they have COVID, and they don't. It's very sad. So she wishes that she can be in a position. She feels weak. She doesn't have the resources. She doesn't have anyone to reach out to. I keep trying to tell her that there's many different places that you can go for homeschool. There's many co-ops. But she doesn't have the resources, Dennis, so I'm trying to help her with the resources right now. She's also depressed My sister's very depressed. She doesn't know what to do with 3 kids on her hands that are constantly being sent home every single day from school. Every day they're being sent home. And this is what the Beverly Hills School District is doing to the children. They're abusing them, and they're hurting them mentally.
That's correct. They are. By the way, does your sister have a husband?
My sister does have a husband, yes. He's a wonderful man. He works very hard, and she's a stay-at-home mom, and the agreement is that she takes care of the children, the school,
Well,
the home,
if
and
the
he works.
if the agreement is that she takes care of the children, what is her opposition to homeschooling?
She doesn't have an opposition to it. She has a 16-year-old that's going into depression. She has a 13-year-old daughter that doesn't want to homeschool because she loves her friends and she's very social and she's afraid. And she has a 9-year-old that just got kicked out of school for not wearing a mask. He's a little bit defiant. So she needs help. She needs help from the state. The state is not helping her. They have resources, but they refuse to help her. So,
well, I'll tell you this. I like the kid who won't wear the mask. I'd have been defiant like that. People don't do what is good for them because it seems overwhelming, like homeschooling. Well, this was an important call. This is exactly why I'm opening lines on the Happiness Hour today, is to hear your situation, good or bad, mixed, whatever it might be, and what is happening with our kids today. If I were raising kids, they would not be in a regular school. I mean, I could tell you that. It's not even a question. And their happiness and my cheerfulness would be number one in my in their lives, as it should be for every parent. The school situation is so dour, is so dark. Everything about it is dark. Everything. The mental health aspect, the values aspect, the American aspect, and yet people keep their kids in school. That was an important call. We'll be back in a moment. It's the Happiness Hour.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Americans still have enough fighting spirit. We're not Canada, we're not Sweden, we're not Germany. And
I would say that even under lawful elections where it was close but you lost, the incoming administration would say, you know, we don't really have a mandate. Normally people would say, I've got to deal with this closely divided group. I can't do great, big, dramatic things. This group has come in and said, we are going to go as hard to the left, as hard to progressivism, as hard to socialism, as hard to communism as we can, as fast as we can. We are going to go as hard to the godless view of everything as fast as we can. We are going to empower our enemies and insult our friends. We are going to undo everything the previous administration did, not because it's necessarily good for the country, but simply for the fact that the previous administration did it. And where that really came back to bite us in the backside, and I think that where you really start to see the let's go Brandon phenomenon is following Afghanistan, because when the previous administration had left an exit plan saying, if you follow these guidelines, make it conditions based, we can get everybody out safely, we can get all of our allies out before we take the military out, we can get rid of our equipment, we can do all this stuff. And because Joe Biden said, I'm not doing any of it, and the only reason he said it was because the previous guy did it, and we got 13 Marines killed, and we lost a lot of Americans in the process that are still behind enemy lines even to this day. That's when America woke up and said, wait a minute, this isn't right. And you're starting to see, I think, a groundswell that is going to roll all the way through the 2022 election cycle.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Man, I miss my father. and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God comes.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermano. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Yes, indeed. Hi, everybody. This is the Happiness Hour on the Dennis Prager Show every Friday. And every Friday, how is that? Awful? Yeah, I guess that might be the appropriate term. Second hour of the show devoted to happiness. And this is a tough time in American life. Very tough time. For me to acknowledge it means it is a tough time. So what are you doing about it? And that's the subject. Open lines. Let's take your calls. Very important hour. Let's see. Here's an interesting one. Kyle in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hello.
How are you doing, Dennis? I can't believe I'm talking to you right now.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
An article that came out on the 30th of September in Philadelphia Inquirer. They had touched on the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the epidemic they're facing just at the hospital and the crisis they're having there. They have 585 beds, and a majority of those are only about a dozen of those are COVID related, and the rest are either upper respiratory and mental health issues. A lot stemming from the pandemic itself. And that it's getting so overflowed that they're looking to expand another facility just for a psychiatric unit, just to the Children's Hospital.
And to what do they attribute the psychiatric problems?
To a lot of the pandemic and children missing school, being separated from their friends and family.
Yeah. Well, this was my worry from the very beginning when I called the lockdown the greatest mistake in history. It's like the immature, namely people that are called experts, they tend to be immature. They never ask the most important question: what is the price paid for any given policy? Like there's no price paid, but that's the only question mature people should be asking. And the price paid by children and adults in work in schooling has been horrific. I'd like to see that article. What was the date of it?
Yeah, it was September 30th.
And it was about how many beds are being reserved in Philadelphia hospitals for kids with mental issues?
Well, there's 585 beds, it says in the article, and a majority of them are either upper respiratory or mental health issues, and they're opening up an extra 46-bed unit in the Philadelphia area for psychiatric, because they're not able to handle the psychiatric issues that these children are having directly at their main hospital. And the upper respiratory issues that they had touched on have been because the children weren't exposed to other viruses and everything during the pandemic when children were home that they would normally be subjected to.
Wow, I'm going to look that article up. Kyle, I deeply appreciate you calling in. My assumption when I hear experts say is that what I'm about to read is stupid. That's my assumption. 99% of the time, I think it turns out to be accurate. The harm that has been done to humanity, not just in the United States, to humanity over this past year with the lockdowns is... See the guy arrested, by the way? It's almost unbelievable. A guy who was on a beach in, what was it, Sydney or Melbourne, and he was on a beach alone, and the cops came and arrested him. You're not allowed to sunbathe in Australia. Health über alles. How often did I say that in the course of the last years? Health über alles. Safetyism. The joke is, it's not making people safe, though. It's making people crazy. But there is a solution if you have kids, and that's homeschooling. Spend time with them, enjoy them, have them enjoy other kids. Unmasked, see faces, enjoy life. Back in a moment.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Secretary Chow, I'm glad you were available today because there are two headlines. One from the Wall Street Journal. Biggest U.S. retailers charter private cargo ships to sail around port delays. Then in the New York Times, it's not sustainable. What America's port crisis looks like up close. There aren't enough workers. There aren't enough ships. You've been the Secretary of Labor and the Secretary of Transportation. What do we do?
It's a very dire situation. You know, when COVID initially hit our shores early in 2020, I was in Secretary of Transportation, and we quickly focused on keeping the transportation supply chains open so that essential medical supplies, groceries, and other essentials were available. And that effort actually required some pretty strong measures. Number one, we decided to ease some restrictions on truckers so that they can keep goods moving. We made sure that the national airspace kept airplanes flying because even though at one point planes were nearly empty of passengers, commercial airliners also routinely transport a lot of goods, especially medical supplies. You know, remember those early days of the initial lockdowns? We had hoarding of toilet paper, sandy wipes, shortage of masks. Stores were putting limits on how much customers can buy of one item. And more than 70% of domestic freight moves via trucks. But today's supply chain problems extend all the way, where worker shortages and COVID lockdowns have slowed the loading of cargo ships from where they started to U.S. ports, where, as you just mentioned, the other day there were over 60 freighters with tens of thousands of storage containers offshore waiting for an opportunity to unload.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Is backtracking. So it's happening. People have to stand up. These people understand that they have to get reelected. And sometimes we just have to remind them who's in charge. And we, the people, are in charge. That is our system. It is a democratic republic. We all get to participate, but we elect people that we trust. We put them in office, and we trust them to keep us safe. We trust them to abide by the Constitution and to keep us free. And when they do not do that, we have to kick their butts out of office. But the important thing is, as voters, you have to always be mindful of freedom. You have to always be mindful of freedom. Quite frankly, I do believe that it's one of the advantages that I have as a black conservative. You can call me Uncle Tom Sellout, whatever. There's no affirmative action plan in heaven. All I have to do is worry about Jesus. I don't have time to worry about you. But I do believe, as black conservatives, I compare us to runaway slaves, because I often say our thoughts are consumed with freedom. That's what happens oftentimes with black conservatives, is we find out and we get this piece of information, we get this piece of history, and we're like, what? The federal government or the Democrat Party did what to enslave us? What did they do? And then you just start looking for that. I also believe it's an advantage that people of faith have, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
There's a new one, Sean. Is that correct? A new one. You like it? Hotel Happiness. Who's singing it? Sorry? Oh, Brooke Benton. Okay, all Dennis Prager Happiness Hour. What's taken place in your life over this year and a half? Open lines on this issue. I looked up that article in the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it was exactly what the caller said it was, about all the young people who are suffering from mental illness who are in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I warned this from the beginning. Everything about the lockdown was a bad idea. The cruelty and the stupidity were equal to one another. People prevented from visiting their dying parents in the hospital. An act of such cruelty as to give the medical profession a name for meanness. I can't get over it, frankly. I have not made peace with the cruelty of the medical profession and hospitals in denying people the right to visit dying relatives or friends. And then the evil that was done to kids by the staggeringly selfish, narcissistic, destructive teachers' unions. I mean, when you think about it, it's just institution after institution of people who should be decent who are indecent, from teachers to doctors. It's quite remarkable. So it's no wonder that people have had terrible repercussions in terms of their mental health. They weren't listening to this show. Easley, South Carolina. Cheryl. Hello, Cheryl.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for my call.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I on the subject, our family's been terribly affected by the lockdowns. I have 4 children. 3 of them have had friends who've committed suicide. All of them good students, active in school when it was open. Just, horrific tragedies. My sister attempted suicide. We have been living through really one of the worst situations. She was injured. She attempted suicide. She wound up with an anoxic brain injury in the hospital. The hospitals were in lockdown. We couldn't see her for 7 months.
What was the excuse for your not being able to see her?
COVID. They were in lockdown. 72 hours into the episode, the doctors were wanting us via phone without being able to see her, talk to her, or see doctors face to face. They wanted us to put her in hospice and end her life over the phone. And I remember hearing stories of people early on having to say goodbye to family members, and I remember crying inside in actual tears for those families, and then we found ourselves in that situation, and it's been a horrible experience. Sorry.
You have every reason to cry. You don't have to be sorry at all. I have to say, though, it's almost unbelievable what you described about your friends, your children's friends.
Yeah, one of them was actually the son of the principal of the school, very active, drum major. My kids were all in the band, and I was so floored when I heard that he had shot himself. And
what was the reason given?
I don't know that particular. He did write his parents a note, but according to what my kids said, who were really close with, it had something to do with the lockdowns and, the depression of, he was a very gregarious young man. He loved people, and it was, I think the young people just don't see an end to this. They don't see the out. And I have to tell you, for me, it has made me, on a daily basis, anxious. I am always checking in. I have 4 young adult children, and I am petrified and nervous at night that one day I'm going to get that call. I've already lived with it with my sister. Got that call that I'm going to miss something with my children, and I just can't imagine what these parents are going through as well. Of course.
What were the other 2 kids?
Both of them, late teens, 18, 19, and they too. I don't know the exact reasons. I didn't feel like I could ask that of the moms, but they were in band. They were friends with my kids. We would have never have thought. Of course, I didn't think it with my own sister as well. So it's just. Wow!
You've really gone through the ringer. My heart goes out to you. I mean, that's a first. I have not heard that. To have had 3 friends of one's children committing suicide this past year. Normally, I'd say it's unbelievable, but I don't think it is unbelievable. And yet, like my question of the first hour, why people in big cities continue to vote Democrat, why do people still believe in experts? Back in a moment.
trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
If you're not vaccinated, you should be in one of those little ice huts out in the middle of a lake at Lake Winnetonka in the middle of Minnesota in the freezing cold. You should sit out there for all of the winter. Just sit in that little booth. That's how you should spend Christmas. I'm not kidding you. You know what this crap does? It's going to start making people hesitant about going forward at all. This is getting to a point where the opposite effect is occurring. I mean, Fauci is making this up as he goes. He says something stupid on Sunday. By Monday, he's trying to spin. He's backpedaling.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The last 3 years of the Bush administration, I was the assistant U.S. trade rep for the Bush administration for public affairs, meaning I was just the spokesperson. And forever, we would hear why we couldn't do things. We couldn't renegotiate NAFTA because, well, it was signed and sealed, and we couldn't do that. And I get it, but that was the mentality.
Yes.
And frankly, that's the mentality that permeates government. And I get it. And so I was always like, okay, I get it. This is stupid, but we do have a signed deal. And you got a guy like Trump that comes in, and you tell him, well, you know, there's this signed deal, and he says, so what? And
it was one of the most refreshing things about it.
And it was just, the thing that was so weird is if you think about it, why aren't more, because I don't think you should tear up everything for the sake of it.
No, but just ask the questions.
Right, ask the questions. Why do we just keep doing things the way that we always have? Why don't we challenge the system? Can it do better? Can we do better for the American people? Can we be more efficient and a better steward of their tax dollars? Can we deliver a better product? Do we still need to do what we're doing anymore? Right? I mean, think about this. Trump's view was, you haven't modernized an agreement. When NAFTA was signed, there was no internet. So we're dealing with problems that didn't exist then that, frankly, when you signed the deal, you couldn't have even thought of. So why not modernize it? On behalf of America, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And at the end of the day, it all worked out. And if you are in the car industry, you're getting a better deal now as an American worker in that industry. If you're a dairy farmer, you're getting a better deal. If you work in the technology field, your IP is more protected. But it was a way of thinking that had never come in before, because previously you would have had some guy that would have been like, okay, here's 18 PowerPoints and, you know, this is the process. And Trump was like, no, that's not it. If it's not working, screw it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Yes, everybody, Dennis Prager, the happiness hour, most necessary, I have to say. And I'm happy to tell you that my recovery from COVID is quite moving. I wouldn't say at lightning speed, although I did register as negative very quickly. But there are lingering effects, and they're gradually dissipating. And now I have the best form of immunity, natural immunity. So it has been ultimately everybody in my household got it. Every single person living in the household. And everybody is doing fine. What has been done in this past year in a combination of panic and hysteria has been has been indefensible, just indefensible. Dave in Monrovia, California. Hello.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for all the work you're doing, and I'm glad you're getting better because I miss you when you're not on the air.
Thank you.
You'll be happy to know that we took our child out of the local school, which really isn't that bad, and put her into a private Catholic school, and she's thriving.
Good.
We did all the things you recommended. She had as much contact with kids as possible. She's been involved in so many things. I would actually get mad at her if I caught her wearing a mask outside. So, but reason on a sad note, I mean, this is a happiness hour, but recently, I think at a local high school, a third student in a year took their life. And it's
the third student in a year?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, this is what we're talking about in part this particular hour. The fools of the FDA, the CDC, and the medical profession generally, the fools, never asked what is the price paid for the lockdowns. They never asked that. All they did was lockdown. Now you know the prices. Call in now on any subject under the sun.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
So Joe Biden thinks that an illegal chasing a U.S. senator into a ladies' room is part of the process and happens to everybody. Wow. I'm guessing nobody's able to chase Joe Biden into the men's room. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's not part of any process he has to face. It's unbelievable the way the machine, the beast, looks the other way when something as reprehensible as illegals harassing United States senators gets a pass. I saw a great tweet, David Harsanyi, who we've interviewed on this show before. Our country is so free that illegal immigrants can yell at senators in public without worrying about any repercussions. That's how free we are as a country. To all the lunatics on the left who tell you how oppressive we are as a nation, how racist this country is, how miserable the United States of America is, we're so free that we let illegals harass, maybe criminally, U.S. senators and we don't do anything about it. Tell me why these illegals harassing senators shouldn't be deported. Give me a good argument against that.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
True. Hi, everybody. This is the hour you set the agenda, what is on your mind, about you, about me, about life, about death, and, of course, cigars, audio equipment, photography equipment. But first, enjoy the music. So let me think. I didn't get the list of 5 right. So it's cigars, audio equipment, photography equipment, fountain pens, and then there's a 5th. What's the 5th? Come on, Sean. Oh, please. Oh, my God. It's painful. Welcome to the show, everybody. Whatever's on your mind is the 3rd hour of Friday show. And I will go to your calls inmediatamente. Okay, where is that one? Yes, I like this. Sarah in North Texas. Hello, Sarah.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Thank God. Well.
Hey, Dennis.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you hear me
I'm
okay?
reporting. I am okay, yes.
Great. I'm calling in about the subject to do with suicide among our American youth in American academia. And I'm going to say truly it is a world gone mad, certainly. And I am a conservative history professor. I've been teaching for 28 years, and I teach on the college campuses as well as the high schools. I teach juniors and seniors. And there is such a terrible division that is occurring today that I truly believe that the students are sort of really falling through the middle, through the cracks, and they cannot cope. And the loss of hope is really what's causing this true critical problem with suicide and
Well, you called and told the screener that they're removing the American and Texas flags from class. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So at one of the high schools that I teach at dual credit, I noticed that in the classroom when we do the pledge, there's no flag. So the students, the few that are standing, very few stand anymore. It's about a 50-50 split. Sometimes it's worse because they're allowed to do that now in most schools. And so I noticed that the ones that are standing, they're pledging to a wall or a filing cabinet or a dry erase board, and I wasn't going to have it. So I had flags at home, some nice flags, and I walked in carrying them on my shoulder, a Texas flag, the proud Texan I am, and an American flag, and the reception area went berserk. They were on phones. I don't know who they were calling, but they acted like I was coming in with weapons into the school. It was shocking to me. And so I placed them in front of the room, and I said, well, we have flags now. And he even asked me, they said, what are you doing? Are you bringing your own flags? And I said, I certainly am, because there's no flags for my room that I'm using while I'm here. And so I went forth with it. They're still there. Nobody's removed them. And I had so many students come up to me and thank me. And they said, thank you, because then that's when I found out through them that every Texas flag and every American flag have been removed from the entire school.
This is quite a story.
Mm-hmm.
You're an example of how important it is for young people to have elders in their lives, adults in their lives, who affirm positive things. The elders, the adults in young people's lives, especially most teachers, are essentially a farce. They represent nothing positive, nothing, absolutely nothing, just a loathing of this wonderful country. And it has an impact on young people, even if they buy the lies of America systemically racist, etc. Even if they buy the lies, it has a terrible impact on young people. So somebody like Sarah, or somebody like me, in other words, an adult that stands for what is good and positive and noble, has such a positive impact on young people. You should see young people come over to me at airports. It's very touching. Okay, everybody, that was important. What did she say in her beginning comment? World gone mad. That is exactly right. It is a world gone mad. Another term for leftism is madness. That's exactly correct. Good call. I appreciate it. All righty, everybody. And let's go to Patty in Powdersville, South Carolina. Hello. Powdersville. I like
that. Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke with a lady from Easley, South Carolina, which is Anderson County, the same county I live in. And Governor McMaster's has made no mask mandates, no requirements. My grandkids, I'm in line to pick them up now. None of the schools are closed. Nothing has been on the news about any child suicides or teen suicides or, no problems like that. And I find it amazing that it's not on, our fake news, but it's not being covered anywhere else either. And I don't understand how the lady can be from the same county as I am and going through this horror.
Why do you find that hard to believe?
Because it's the same school district, same county.
I see. Well, who knows? I mean, unless you think she made it up, which I know you don't. It's hard to know. It's a very fair question, though. I would like her to answer that, given that the policy of the schools has not been the lockdown policy, at least according to what you're saying. When history is written of this era, it will be shown that the pathology of the left versus the health of the right is one of the most dramatic differences. Will have been one of the most dramatic differences in the United States when you compare a DeSantis to a Newsom, just as an example. They celebrate pathology. It's that sick. We will celebrate people not living life, but of course they do live life. When you see all these pictures of Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom and the other leftists not wearing masks, it's not that they're hypocrites. Of course they're hypocrites, but that's the least. It's that it shows that they don't believe the lies they tell you. They don't believe masks are important. If they did, would they be committing suicide? How do you explain any Democratic leader that doesn't wear a mask imposing masks on the population at large? If they believe that it saves lives, then are they committing suicide? Right? They must be. So it's all a fraud. It's all one gigantic fraud, and yet people buy it. The well-educated buy it, I should say. The best educated are the ones who buy it the most. That is hilarious. I tell you, I do get varied questions. Lewis in Jerusalem, Israel, is calling to find out if I eat corn and rice on Passover. And I'm only laughing because it's not an illegitimate question for those who know Jewish law. I do, in fact, because I don't consider it banned chametz. But anyway, I did answer the question. I'm laughing because 99% of my listeners have no idea what the question was about. But I answered it. We'll be back in a moment.
Trending now. on The Larry Elder Show.
They lied
What did
and
they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
They
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch
horse.
of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking it, the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication.
Did you see how uncomfortable he was? See, leftists aren't used to pushback, and that's exactly what Joe Rogan gave them, pushback. They're used to existing in these bubbles. They all think alike. They all talk alike. I'm not even sure that they all believe the same thing, but they're so cowardly that they just live to impress each other,
dude,
within these bubbles,
dude.
Yeah. So let me tell you something. This guy Sanjay Gupta, I've watched him a couple of times on CNN. I've watched some clips, and I tried to, just try to stomach through it, honestly. I don't have a lot of respect for Sanjay Gupta because I believe that he deceives a lot of people as well. I believe CNN does that. And first off, the drug ivermectin, we know that it's a human drug. He knows that it's a human drug.
Dude.
And Joe Rogan, my goodness, called him out on it.
Dude.
And it's a good thing. And by the way, let me correct the record. The medicine for animals is called neuromectin, not ivermectin. So not only is CNN lying about it, they don't even have the decency to look up the correct drug for you. This is why we cannot trust the mainstream media. They just lie.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It's not just about saying I have a right in this country to not have the government not allow me to go to church, but also that the government cannot compel me to participate in any sort of event, including a vaccine, by the way, that goes against my sincerely held religious beliefs. And so it should just be a matter of course that if you have a conscious objection, then you can say, I, as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Jew, as any sort of religion. I mean, this covers all religions, by the way, all faiths, all sincerely held beliefs. You should be able to say, I decline to be coerced into participation. But what we're seeing is that a lot of employers are not only requiring a lot of information for people to say, well, you have to justify your religious exemption. We're also seeing that they want this so-called, what they're calling an interactive process. That's basically an interrogation. I have clients right now that they have filed for a religious exemption on the basis of we're pro-life, that's what the Bible teaches, and I cannot take this vaccine. And the Human Resources Department, from the legal counsel of these employers, want to sit down and basically interrogate them and say, is this really a sincerely held religious belief? And they're using this as a pretext to try to deny religious exemptions. It's absurd, and I hope that when there are more lawsuits filed, like just today, in Texas, United Airlines was forbidden from enforcing their vaccine mandate against employees who are claiming a religious exemption. So we're already seeing that the courts are protecting this, but hopefully it'll be more than just Texas.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at Rumble.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. And that reminds me, now that I'm thinking about it, yes, I want to remind you about Pure Talk. You could save $800 per family per year on your phone bill. It sounds too good to be true, so I actually tested it out. Got a phone through Pure Talk. and it's the same service as Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, except that it's only $30 a month for unlimited text, unlimited talk, 6 gigabytes of data. Pretty good stuff, huh? It was hard for me to believe, so I actually got a phone. Now I have 2 phones. By the way, you can keep your own phone and phone number, but I decided to get another one because they sell phones at great prices as well. And that is at Pure Talk, my friends. Just go to text. What is it, Sean? What do we text? Dennis Prager. We text. Say Dennis Prager at the text. Pound 250. That's it. Pound 250 and say Dennis Prager. There you go. And that's Pure Talk. Been a vast response to this ad campaign for good reason. Pound 250, Dennis Prager. Okay, y'all. Whatever's on your mind, that's what's on this hour. Okay, let's see here. Rick, Garland, Texas. Hello.
Well, hello there. By the way, I have a Prager license plate.
Wait, a Prager U? You got a Prager U?
Yes, sir.
You have a Texas license plate, Prager U?
I do, and I sent you a picture of it.
Bless your soul. That is great. We got to have a convention. If we reach 25 states, we're going to all meet in the middle of the country, which gives you a big advantage being in Texas.
Yes, and I am looking forward to it so much.
Good man. Thank you.
You have mentioned on many occasions a subject, how I found God at Columbia.
Correct.
I have looked through Pragertopia. They have looked through it, and we cannot find it. I need it.
All right. I want you to do the following. Are you in front of a computer right now?
Yes, sir.
Good. So, as much as I dislike Google or use whatever you use to find things on the internet, search engine, and I just want you to put in Dennis Prager found God at Columbia. If it doesn't come up, I will send you a cigar.
Okay, let's see here. Should I leave spaces between those words?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was doing it like a website. Okay. Dennis Prager found God at Columbia. Okay. It says there's a How I Found God at Columbia.
Yeah, so there you go. So what was the problem?
Well, I looked, was it a program you did one day or what? But
No. It was an
anyway,
article. It was a column just as you found now. Anyway, it's up there, and I wanted to work it out with Rick because I know that it's up there. Anyway, so there it goes. It's worth reading. How I Found God at Columbia. I wrote that a long time ago, and it actually is a life-shaping moment in my life. I was very young. I was in my 20s. I was at graduate school at Columbia University, and I was puzzled as to why I was being taught nonsense by intelligent people. And the answer came to me in what I can only describe as an epiphany. Some out of the blue response to my question. And sure enough, that is what the article is about. It changed my life, and it changed my thinking about many, many things when I got that answer to why I was being taught nonsense by people with good brains. Okie-doke. And Jeremy in Minneapolis. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. I wish you continued healing and recovery, Mr. Prager.
Thank you.
The medical establishment seems to be a very effective tool for the implementation of tyranny, for the fact that it seems to take advantage of the notion that has been ingrained into people's minds that those in the medical profession are more inclined to be compassionate and supportive of people's well-being, because of course that's the fundamental aspect of the medical profession is for the maintaining of people's good health, trying to help people maintain good health and heal them when they are less than well, and so people are. I think people tend to be inclined to adhere to the directives of the medical establishment, and because it's for people's well-being apparently, and also people tend to feel more morally compelled. Again, because at least in the Western world, what is the moral basis? Morality is largely based on the idea of the well-being of people.
Well, you're right. That is what people assume. It's certainly what I assumed for much of my life. I no longer assume it. The medical profession has disgraced itself in the last couple of years, and it has lost my respect. There are some wonderful individual doctors, saintly human beings, no question about it. But the profession, as a rule, has disgraced itself. The FDA is a disgrace. The CDC is a disgrace. The American Medical Association is a farce. And doctors are herd-like creatures, which is no different from most other professions. But you do not get moral results from people who are part of a herd. All of this is sad, and we have to be grown-ups and acknowledge it, because the harm that they have done in the last couple of years, the experts, medical experts, the wokeness of medical schools, where teachers are reported if they say women give birth instead of birthing persons. We'll be back. You are listening to The Dennis Prager Show.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking gone.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
So Joe Biden thinks that an illegal chasing a U.S. senator into a ladies' room is part of the process and happens to everybody. Wow. I'm guessing nobody's able to chase Joe Biden into the men's room. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's not part of any process he has to face. It's unbelievable the way the machine, the beast, looks the other way when something as reprehensible as illegals harassing United States senators gets a pass. I saw a great tweet, David Harsanyi, who we've interviewed on this show before. Our country is so free that illegal immigrants can yell at senators in public without worrying about any repercussions. That's how free we are as a country. To all the lunatics on the left who tell you how oppressive we are as a nation, how racist this country is, how miserable the United States of America is, we're so free that we let illegals harass, maybe criminally, U.S. senators, and we don't do anything about it. Tell me why these illegals harassing senators shouldn't be deported. Give me a good argument against that.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
One of the all-time favorite melodies of the Dennis Prager Show. That's correct. C'est vrai, mesdames et messieurs. By the way, if you can still say mesdames et messieurs, because that implies that you are implying that there are two sexes, which is no longer done on many American airlines. They no longer say ladies and gentlemen. They say passengers, lest they imply that there are ladies and gentlemen on the airplane. We live in a sick age, truly sick age. It's the bored, intellectual, secular that are the cause of all of this sickness. They're bored. Okay, everybody, what's on your mind is the issue. David in Bakersfield, California. Hello there, David.
Dennis, it's great to have you back. Glad you're well. I've got a short little story of how I found you that I think will usher in your Shabbat with a smile.
Cool.
And it begins when Hamas was lobbing all their missiles into Israel not but a few months ago. A good friend of mine from Israel, a kid I grew up with, he sent me a video of you. I think you were at Harvard, and it was one of those 5-minute little things that you were just railing into Harvard about Israel, about the terrorists. It was something that I recommend every one of your listeners to listen to. It's brilliant. And I said, wow, who is this guy? Now, I've heard them before, but I never really realized, how awesome you were, not to... pat you on the head too much here. But my son is in the Israeli army currently. He's a paratrooper, and he's stationed on that southern border. So I was watching the news, and I started listening to you, going to PragerU, and I heard just a bunch of really good stuff. So I texted my son. I said, hey, you got to listen to this guy, Dennis Prager. And I shared with him, I said, there's a video, and it's when you had that astrophysicist on talking about science. And that was also an incredible video. I said, you got to watch this thing. You got to listen to PragerU. And he's pretty busy. A few days later, he texted me back. He said, Dad, I've been listening to Prager for a long time now. And I took back. I said, wait a minute. Well, why didn't you tell me about this guy?
Yeah. What kind of son is that?
I was incensed, you know.
I agree with you. Tell your son I'm ticked off.
Yeah, so we share a lot of PragerU-isms here and there, a lot of videos.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you. You know, these are very sweet stories. Like, why didn't you tell me? I love that. One of the sweetest things that I encounter is when parents tell me it's their kids who introduced them to me. It used to be the other way around, and now it's 50-50. So it's very, very touching to hear such a story. Say hi to your son. I look forward to meeting him one day. And appreciate the call, yes. Okay, Richie in Sacramento, California. Hello.
Oh, thanks for taking my call, Dennis.
Thank you for calling.
So I generally agree with you about experts. I think they do a lot of damage and cause problems. But I can't help but wonder, who are the experts in wisdom, and should they be trusted?
So I saw your call, and I thought, what would I answer to this interesting question? And I prepared the following answer. The people that I most trust with regard to wisdom are generally, overwhelmingly, people who have been influenced by the Bible. So that I assume that a 15-year-old at a good Christian or Jewish school has more wisdom than 99% of the professors at Harvard.
That makes sense. So, especially with your books about the Bible, it seems like they're geared towards secular people with the idea of, even if you don't believe in God, this is still a good source of wisdom?
Yes,
correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly correct. I appreciate your call. That is exactly correct. Yes. I did a show on maybe two occasions. I said, if you don't get your wisdom from the Bible, where do you get it from? And the hour proved my point, because the answers that people gave were, shall we say, not helpful. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384. Relief Factor is been developed by doctors. See, doctors can do some good things. I have a sober view of doctors. And they did a great thing with Relief Factor. They invented something that is safe and which cures the great majority of people of their muscle or joint pain. They're so confident in its ability to work quickly that they have the following statement at Relief Factor: try it for 3 weeks. If it doesn't work in 3 weeks, it probably doesn't work. So you've had an attempt for $19.95. That's the 3-week quick start, ReliefFactor.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Okay, all Dennis Prager here. Good to be with you. Looking at your calls here. Columbus, Ohio, David. Today is David Day. Hi, David.
Hello, Dennis.
Hi.
I'm great. How are you today?
Thank you. Also great.
So, I think there's just another example of how much the left hates America. DC Comics has taken away the motto of the American way of Superman for his fight for truth, justice, the American way. So they can't even associate the American way with truth and justice anymore.
That's correct. I mentioned this earlier today, and I mentioned like 10 years ago that they had Superman give up his American citizenship. This was done about 10 years ago. He stood in front of the United Nations and renounced his American citizenship to become a citizen of the world. So Superman is another arena of depriving young people of love of this country, of pride in this country. They're sick people with sick values who have now taken over Superman. Superman was founded by liberals. This is a perfect example of the liberal-left difference. Superman was founded in the 30s by liberals who loved this country. It is now run by leftists who hate this country. All leftists hate this country. All leftists around the world do. There is any leftist who loves this country is a liberal, not a leftist. And this is another example, hate-filled example of the sick world of the left, what they've done to Superman.
It is, and it infiltrates our youth.
That's correct. Plan. Yes, they have nothing. They're given nothing to believe in, absolutely nothing. People who believe in nothing are raising children to believe in nothing. And we send them to schools where teachers who believe in nothing teach them to believe in nothing and then wonder why the kids turn out to be people who have contempt for our own values. It is one of the phenomena of modern life that people send their kids to regular schools and then wonder why they're ruined. People who believe in nothing are teaching your children to believe in nothing. Okay? Just like the woman who called earlier from North Texas, where you can't. It's hard to find a schoolroom with an American flag or a Texas flag. Okie-doke. Let's see here. Let's go on. Let's go to Randy in New Orleans. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well.
Great. Okay, so regarding the ADF and that conversation earlier, say I'm a Satanist and I own a web design company or a bakery, and a Christian comes in requesting a Christian website and or a Christian cake, and I deny them their service, I get sued. Could I call the ADF and get them to support me and defend my religious freedom? Would you support my religious freedom? Or...
Wait, so wait. Of course I would support your religious freedom. In other words, if you didn't want to bake a satanic cake and... No.
Other way around. No. Other way around. If I'm a Satanist and I don't want to bake a Christian cake.
Right, okay, fair enough. You don't want to bake a Christian cake. I would defend your right not to bake a Christian cake. 100%.
Okay, that's check. Okay, that's
okay. Good. All right, there you go. Of course I would. The issue is, can the government force you to do things that you don't believe in? Whether you believe in something beautiful or something ugly is not the issue. It's whether the government can force you to do it. The peace with which the left in this country has made, the peace with which they have made government forcing people to do things, say things, think things, is because that is the nature of leftism ever since Vladimir Ilyich Lenin until today. We can force you to think, speak in a certain way, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Communist China, or whether it's the Democratic Party. That is their belief. We can force you to think the way we want you to think, speak the way we want you to speak. It is the antithesis of everything that America has stood for. And yet people who think that they're decent vote Democrat. Mind-boggling. Truly mind-boggling. That was my opening theme in the show today, when I reported to you about how many drugstores are closing in San Francisco. Massive numbers are closing because the Democratic Party is okay with theft. It's okay with theft, and if you deny it, you're lying to yourself, and there's nothing I can do about it. The Democratic Party is okay with theft. NPR had a whole hour on a defense of shoplifting. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People have been so brainwashed into hating Republicans and conservatives and Christians that no matter how evil the left is, it doesn't matter to them. It means nothing. As the society continues to commit suicide. Okay, Columbus, Ohio. Jay, hello. Jay in Indigenous Ohio. Hello.
Oh, it's so wonderful to speak to you, Dennis. I can't believe I'm on the air with you.
Oh, thank you.
I have so much to say. Real quick, are you taking hydroxychloroquine after the COVID, or I know you've touted that all along.
Yeah, and it worked out beautifully for me. I'm very grateful to all the therapeutics. I wish everybody took therapeutics. It would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives.
I have some in case. I've not been vaccinated, but I have hydroxychloroquine in case. And,
yes, well, it's worth taking. I gotta ask you to hold on. And I know you had an argument with your family about masks. I'm curious to hear about it. We'll be back in a moment.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking bar.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The only time you can come to Christ.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, final segment of the week. Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. All right, so Jay at Columbus, what's your issue with masks and your family?
Yeah, first of all, I'd love to meet you. I'm a pipe smoker. I'm a retired policeman, and you've taught me so much about Judaism. I never knew about the religion until I began to listen to you 4 years ago. So anyway.
Thank you.
I have been, all since this time, I've been against the vaccination. I've been, believed in, God's will, no mask, despite that there was a mandate in Ohio last year. So my son is a nurse at a major hospital in Columbus, Ohio. He's married, has three little children, my grandchildren, which I love and adore. I'm a very involved grandfather. I'm a retired policeman, so I have a lot of time to be with them. I've always gone to their sporting events, dance recitals, all that stuff. I've babysat for them. I've helped them out with money, they're a young family. And then all of a sudden, just a month ago, I was told if I didn't wear a mask at my granddaughter's volleyball game, I wasn't welcome. Even though the masks were not required, they were just recommended by the school. It was my daughter-in-law who told me this, the wife of my son who's a nurse. And I said, I didn't even protest. I just said to myself, well, I won't go to the game if I'm required to wear a mask. I just simply won't go. Well, then she lambasted me on text for not appearing. You know, how dare you not show up at your granddaughter's volleyball game over this simple mask? And this was a text, and I told her, "Dear Leah," I said, "don't text me. Just have the courage to call me and talk to me." And she refused. She said, "I can't talk to you. I get too red in the face." And then the next thing I know, Dennis, she said, "You are not welcome in my house, nor welcome around my grandchildren." That was 1 month ago.
And how is your son reacted?
I'm just now about to say that. I reached out to him to see if he endorsed what she had said, and he had put me off. He kept putting me off. "I've been working a lot, Dad. I'll get back to you." And then he didn't. And it's exactly 1 month ago, Dennis. He kept putting me off. I reached out to both of them to try to resolve this. We live 15 minutes apart here in Columbus. Yet he would not. I'm a very involved grandfather.
Are they at all religious?
She is, but he's not. She goes to church.
Mm-hmm. Ask her what I would love to talk to her and ask her what she thinks about the commandment to honor your father and mother. My heart breaks for you. See, it's very, very hard to fight irrationality. That's the thing I fear the most, is when people are governed by irrationality. I'm sorry, Jay. I hope there's a happier ending to this story. Kevin, James, Molly, Steve, Tim, Arthur, Matt, all of you, by the way, please go to my website and click on the ADF banner. That's right. All right. See you, man.